when should they start thinking about recruitment? And I laugh. I got something on Twitter the other day from this kid's ranked in the top 25 in the class of 2031. He's a seventh grader. And I was like, man, that's amazing that there's a recruiting service out there that has seen every seventh grader in the country play. And they know where they're all falling. I was like, this is nuts. Kid was on there, and the kid was 5'1" and 100 pounds soaking wet. And I was just like, okay, like someone's selling him a bag of goods. So let's talk about when realistic, when should most kids start thinking and start educating themselves about the process?
Yeah, I think you can do things as a freshman and do things as a sophomore that are going to help you with the process. Unless you're an ESPN top 150, you're not going to be hearing from anybody. I mean, it's just not going to happen. But there are still things you can be doing, your freshman year. And like, for example of that, number one is focus on skill development, strength training and conditioning. Get better. I mean, that's the whole thing. If you want to play in college, you got to keep getting better and keep increasing your skill level.
Yeah, and that's hard. Both being parents to take that hat off and not be emotional and be rational about it, because you do want. Sometimes the parent wants it more than the kid.
Yeah.
And that's we've been in this side of the table long enough that oftentimes this doesn't work out for those kids, where the parent wants it more than the kid, and the kid ends up not playing because they just like. It stopped. You brought up fun. It stops being fun. And they don't want to continue it at the next level, because they know at the next level it's even bigger commitment. And so I'm just going to go to school. So the kid has to drive this recruitment. So to the parents out there, like, let your kid lead. That's the other thing. You talk about these middle school, like, no, I mean, every middle school kid's going to tell you they're going to play in the NBA too. They don't realize what.
My 12-year-old says that he's, he's about 80 pounds and about 4'6". Yeah. So.
Right. So they're all, every kid says that, but once they start to show like that, if you have to drag them to practice, if you have to drag them to go get up shots, like, college basketball is not in the cards for that kid. And that's okay. But if they show that interest and they want to get better and they're okay, then you can start to think about these other things. But until that kid shows the commitment to getting shots up, working on ball without you reminding them, right? They're working on those things outside of it, or they're asking you, hey, can we go to the gym? Can we go to this? Can we go to that? They're asking for those things. Then you can start to look at the college thing, potential.
Yeah, and that goes right into DEAP, go deep into your recruiting process. And the first step to that is, like we talked about, development. You've got to want to get in the gym, want to work on your weaknesses, want to get better, want to get in the weight room, want to get stronger, want to get in great shape, and want to compete at a really high level, when you get into high school. So that's such an important piece of this whole thing is if you're not getting better every year, you're getting passed up. And if you can't play consistently game in and game out, coaches aren't going to recruit you. They want guys who dominate high school basketball. I don't care what level recruits you. They want guys who can dominate high school basketball, because if you can't dominate high school basketball, what makes you think you're going to go to college, no matter what level it is, and play there? You know what I mean? So development is it's the foundation. It should be the foundation of every kid's recruiting process. Is get better, work on your weaknesses. Because if you work on your weaknesses, you become a better player. If you become a better player, you play more consistently and you play better. And if that happens, your recruiting stock will go up. So that's kind of step one. And I'll let you kind of touch on education. We've talked about this, but we can dive a little bit deeper into these. I mean, the educational piece is really important as well. Knowing about the portal, knowing about the transfer rules, understanding levels. Yeah.
Yes. And understanding, not hearsay what some talking head on some talk shows talking about the portal, but what is it really, and how are coaches utilizing it? So this is where and again, if your kid is showing that interest, you can start to do this together and look at those rosters and look at all these kids that have transferred. Look at this. Okay. Let's look at their roster from last year. Where are these kids now? And just stay local and look at some local teams and see where those kids are going. Are they staying? Are they leaving? Did the coach leave? Things like that. On the different levels, what are the requirements for those different levels academically? First of all, you have to be admitted to those schools. So are you taking the right classes to be eligible? Testing, something that's starting to come back at certain schools, especially the high academic schools. Like, you got to have a test score. You have to, whether it's ACT or SAT, that doesn't really matter, but you got to have something, and you got to have a certain score to get in certain. If you're looking at a high academic school, and I know we're going to get into this a little bit, if you're not scoring a 30 or higher, like, you can scratch those off the list, because you're not getting in unless you just absolutely check all kinds of other boxes that university is looking for. So, and those may have nothing to do with grades, but like, what are you involved in socially, socioeconomic factors, things like that like you as a high school player really don't have any control over that stuff. Eligibility that we talked about, like I said, making sure you have the right classes, you have the right core GPA. Have you taken the right math classes? Have you taken the right English classes? Like, have you got to a certain level to be admitted to certain schools? So that whole piece. And then if you are one of those high academic kids, we work with a lot of those kids. Are you taking the rigor to get those? Do you have those AP classes? How are you scoring on those? Are you taking college credit classes? How are you scoring on those? So we've done many shows on this where the high academic schools, they want to see that rigor. They'd rather see you get a B in an AP class than an A in the non-AP class. So finding out from experts, not somebody sitting in the bleachers that says they're an expert, but somebody that truly knows what they're talking about, to make sure you have those boxes checked. Because if you don't, the basketball is not going to matter, because you're not going to be able to get into those schools.
Yeah. The 9 stages of the process and the 5 periods of the recruiting timeline. So when you talk about the stages, the identification stage, the evaluation stage, the contact stage, campus visits, early offers, all those different stages, all the way into, you sign your scholarship papers or your enrollment agreement. Like, there's a whole stage to this whole thing from start to finish that coaches will take you through. And then you get the 5 periods: the quiet period, the contact period, the evaluation period. And we have all that stuff in our resource section, but it's important for players and parents to understand, all of those things. And then you've got like the eligibility and the academic piece, which you just alluded to. I mean, am I a qualifier? Am I able to get into this school based on my academic, credentials? So knowing those things are really important. And then, like you said, getting to know the different levels, is kind of the third piece of the education part of it. So that's the 3 areas where I think families and players need to spend their time on to really educate themselves on this entire recruiting process. So, which kind of leads us to assessment. You gotta be self-aware of you as a player. You got to know your strengths, you got to know your weaknesses, and what level or levels you can play at. I mean, at the end of the day, especially as you get into your senior year, going into your junior, senior, like at the end of the day, like, as a freshman or a sophomore, you've got 3 to 4 years of high school to develop and grow. And we've seen some guys that I've worked with that probably were small college guys that have worked and progressed, that have made themselves into scholarship level guys. But there are some kids that are just kind of who they are, and it's great, and they're good players, but they play below the rim. They're not super athletic. They're super smart. They shoot the crap out of it, but maybe they're 6'2", 6'3", and they're probably small college guys, physically, and they've got to be okay with that. So God gave you what you have. So being self-aware of yourself, knowing your weaknesses, knowing your strengths, and then understanding what level you could realistically play at is really, really important to me having success in this process.
And along with that assessment piece, you need to get an evaluation from somebody that knows what they're talking about. That's one thing that we do with our players here at Net Results. And we do that because there are some high school coaches out there who they're the basketball coach because they needed somebody, and they're not a basketball guy or girl. They may have never played the sport, so they can't help that player with developing their weaknesses because they just don't have the bandwidth. They don't know what they're talking about. It's not their fault. They were thrust into a position where they needed somebody. That happens oftentimes at schools where they're scrambling to find a coach for this team. So getting an evaluation, a true evaluation from someone trusted who can identify things that you need to work on and then give you a plan of attack to get better at those things. Because as you said, Shafe, if they know what their weaknesses are and they don't address them, they're not a better player. But
Yeah.
if you know what your weaknesses are and you do address them with the right skills, you become a better player. And then, as I tell my players, like at the beginning, I'm going to paint with real broad strokes of what you need to work on. As time goes on, that brush is going to get thinner and thinner. And I'm going to really start nitpicking little stuff because you've covered the big stuff and you've really improved that. And so with that, getting better. You talked about assessment and strength being so big. And this is one thing, especially the younger kids, like you're not going to be very strong, but if you can be assessed with how to exercise correctly and how to do these as you grow and mature, then your body will be able to retain that weight. So being able to do those exercises correctly and appropriately.
Nutrition is important as well.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Well, all of us when we were 15, everybody, you ate whatever you wanted. That doesn't exist anymore, but getting the right things and developing those habits. So getting an assessment, coming up with a plan of attack, and then addressing those weaknesses and getting better over time. It will help you become a better player.
Yeah.
And then go ahead. No, go.
Players can't assume that their club coach or their high school coach are going to give them that assessment. And some of them do, and they do a great job of it. But a lot of them, quite frankly, don't have the time to do it because they're teaching, they have a full-time job, they've got a bunch of other kids that they're focused on that they've got to, put their attention to. So they don't have the time or the bandwidth to potentially do that. So they're not saying, hey, coach, Coach Bright, in the offseason, you need to work on X, Y, and Z. So it is really important that you find somebody, whether it's us, because we do those things, separately, or somebody that you trust that knows the game, to break down your game, break down your film, and truly evaluate your game. And we evaluate 9 different areas of a player's game. We evaluate their shooting, their footwork, their ball handling, their finishing, their passing, their defense, their body and athleticism, their basketball IQ. And the 9th one is the intangibles, their motor, their coachability, stuff like that. So all 9 of those areas, we dig in and really deep dive into the player and what their strengths are and the areas where they can grow in those specific skill sets. And I think it's one of the most important, most valuable things we provide for our players, especially our younger players that we have, because that, again, development starts this whole foundation of this process.
That leads us to the last piece, which is the P, being proactive. And we've talked about, the things you can do leading up into high school. But once you're kind of there, again, that kid's got to show the initiative to want to reach out, to be interested in this, and then start to reach out to coaches and update them with film, with stats, with where you're going to be in the spring, in the summer, who you're playing with, developments going on in the classroom, if you're involved in a community, all those types of things, because you have to, some people see it as self-promotion, and it is, but that's what social media is. And that's just the day and age that we live in, that you have to promote yourself. Now, there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it, and we want you to do it the right way, of being easy to find for coaches, following programs. And just following them doesn't mean just hitting like and hitting follow, like truly follow them. And if they have a big win or things like that, you can send them a message. You can do things that you can like it. And coaches will notice that thing if they're the ones running that social media account. Oftentimes it's a GA or somebody in the athletic department that has no really discernible. So figuring that out. But being proactive in this and getting yourself out there will help in the long run.
Yeah. I mean, my biggest frustration with our guys that we help, we get into that spring and summertime. We set everything up for them as far as getting coaches out to see them play during the summer with their high school and club teams. We start getting the coaches interested in them, and, they reach out to the kid reaches back, and sure enough, a lot of our kids, they just sit back and wait for that coach to respond again. And it doesn't work that way anymore. And that's what I don't think kids understand. I'm just going to sit back. I'm good enough. Coaches are just going to reach out. It is not the world we live in anymore. And I tell them all the time, I don't care how good you are. Like, you need to stay in touch with the coaches that are reaching out to you. Hit them up once a month, once every, a couple times. I'm like, hey, coach, just want to check in and say, hey, that's all you got to do. Or, hey, coach, I know you guys started practice today. Just wanted to wish you luck in your first day. Or, hey, coach, saw you guys had a big win last night. Congratulations. Or, hey, coach, hey, we had a big W last night at 20-5. I hope you're having a good weekend. Like, that stuff has to happen. Like, we tell kids all the time, like, we'll get schools interested in you. And when we do that, they don't want to talk to us anymore. They want to talk to the kid. But when they get back into their campuses and they get into their season, the last thing on their mind right now is recruiting. They need to get their team ready to play, you know? And so now, don't get me wrong, there's assistants still recruiting and doing those things. But I mean, again, you've got to stay proactive as a player if you want to continue this process with coaches. And you can't assume they're going to be the ones that are going to call you every single time. They don't have to, because they can wait till the portal opens in January and just recruit out of that. So, like, high school kids really have to take that to heart and be proactive. If you're listening to this podcast and you're a player and you remember anything we say tonight, stay proactive with the schools that are showing interest in you.
And you're going to get rejected way more than you're going to be accepted. There's 2,000 schools out there. Most of them are going to tell you no. You have to move on with that. It's just a life lesson of putting yourself out there and being rejected. It sucks. It sucks. It's going to happen to you personally. It's going to happen to you professionally. And all it takes is that one coach to believe in you. So putting yourself out there and continuing that communication, even when the coach doesn't reciprocate it all the time, you just have to do it. And Steve, you gave great examples of little simple stuff. Hey, hope you have a great week of practice. It literally takes 2 seconds. And there might be 20 schools you're interested in, and you can send that message to 20 of those schools. Hey, coach, have a great week of practice. Or I saw you guys won last week. Congrats. Something like that. Something simple, because that shows initiative. Because these coaches know 95% of the kids that they reach back out to will ghost them.
Yep.
We'll ghost them. And we had Coach Jarvis and Coach Frank on our NAI episode. They talked about having 200 kids in their phone from one recruiting class, because they know so many of them are going to fall off that list. So they have a huge list. So you want to promote yourself to stay on that list and move up that list.
Yeah.
We used to joke when I played in college that, promoting yourself, you want to sit by the coaching staff, you want to get in the game, right? The closer you sat to them, the more likely you are to get in the game. Well, you got to do the same thing here. You got to promote.
That's a great analogy. Yeah.
As soon as that timeout was over, when we were on the bench, everybody sprinted for that first chair right next to the assistant. And when coach would give somebody turn it over and you'd see him look, you'd see you want to play, you start leaning forward to make sure coach saw me get in a game, right?
Yeah.
Same thing
with recruiting. Yeah.
Same thing.
And the problem, the reality is, most 16 and 17-year-old kids aren't going to do it. They're just not going to take the time to do it. And that's just who they are. And I think that's where we come in at results. I mean, we take that role as the advisor and help you make those personal connections. And I always say this to families, I tell players all the time, you're your own best recruiter. We just amplify your voice by getting your profile out there, by texting your stuff to coaches, by connecting you to people, by getting your emails out, by getting your schedule out for tournaments and showcases. Like, that's what we do to help amplify your voice. But once the interest gets there, they have to be the voice. I mean, they have to be the voice. And so that's a great analogy about getting close to the coach, because if they can see you, they're going to take notice, and you got a better chance of playing. You know what I mean? Unless you're really bad, but yeah.
Right. Well, and we both know who the 15th man who is always trying to sit up there by us, like, go sit down there. Like, you're not getting in the game. Like, go sit down there. We need somebody up here that can help us. Go. Like, I love you, but go down there.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, just kind of summarize timeline for freshmen and sophomores. We did freshmen already. We can kind of gloss over that one again and get into sophomores, but I'll go back to freshmen just to reiterate: focus on development, really get after it in the classroom and get off to a good start. Make your high school team, your freshman team, your JV team, go to camps that are valuable for development, for evaluation, for some expertise. Get involved in grassroots basketball. Start playing club ball if you haven't already. Great way to get development and game experience. Start looking at colleges, create a list of schools that may be of interest to you, and research them and see if that's a place you can play. And then finally, research the different levels. Get to know what it takes to play at each level, so you can develop to that player.
And I'm going to echo those for sophomores, because all that stuff applies. The only thing I'm going to add on that is, if you're a high academic kid, as a sophomore, you need to start promoting yourself to those schools. And that goes into the education of that. If that's something that you're really interested in and you're really fired up about, we have college coaches at that level reach out to us. Hey, we're looking at these, because that goes back to, we talked earlier about academics. Are you taking the right classes? Can they even admit you? Because at the super high academic schools of the world, like where I'm at in St. Louis, Washington University, they can love you all you want. If you can't get in the doors, they're not getting you in. Some of those schools might get a one-off. They might get one kid that they could get in that's got to be close to admission standards, but most of them, it's pretty hard and fast rule. You're not getting in. So if you're one of those kids that's on that track, you're going to start getting yourself out to those coaches as a sophomore.
And if you are that kid, make sure you're building a profile. Make sure you're registered for the NCAA. Those are some important things as a sophomore to start if you're that player. If not, junior year is okay to start those things. Building a profile and register for the NCAA. I think the other thing as a sophomore, regardless of academics, is start building a social media presence. Twitter, Instagram, with good highlight films and just basketball, social media presence. I think that's good to build momentum there. Get your stuff out there a little bit. Not that everyone's going to watch it, but you can start following different programs, following coaches, and start gaining some momentum and building a presence there. I think that's a good time to start doing that, regardless of where you stand academically.
Mm-hmm. And with, like you said, those highlights and stuff, most kids use Huddle. So learn how to use Huddle. That's another educational piece. Learn how to use Huddle and how to make those highlights, how to make them available, how to get them to coaches, how to get them to people on your social media, because that's, having your sophomore highlights pinned at the top of your page going into your junior year. That's a good thing. And then in your junior year, switch them, put that junior highlights on there, because that coaches are going to visit that. That's becoming more and more the norm of using social media to see what is this kid all about. So having that stuff on there. So if you need to be educated on Huddle, on how to do that stuff, learn.
And I think junior year is really when it starts to amp up, and you need to start really taking this thing to a different level. And that's when most kids start coming on with us is their junior year, because it's a good time to start doing this. Again, all those things that the freshman and sophomore apply with development and in the classroom and grassroots ball and all those different things. Build your profile at this point. That has your academic, your personal, your athletic information, transcript, schedule, all those different things. Get your club schedule out to college coaches, and we do that for our players. But it's a good time to get some exposure. Exposure is key, and so that's a big thing too, especially going at the end of your junior year, going into your senior year. That's really crucial. Be proactive. You got to reach out consistently to coaches at that point. Get on their radars. Build some momentum. So when they shift gears to your class when you're junior, then they know who you are, and you're not an unknown. So those are big things. And I think the other thing you can do, if you have the means to do it, go out and take a few unofficial visits in the summer. If you're going to a club tournament in LA or Chicago or Atlanta or South Carolina, find out if there's a school nearby. Go check it out. I mean, even if they're not recruiting you, just go check it out and see what campus looks like. Go look at some facilities and just get a little feel for what does the D2 campus look like? What does the D3 campus look like? What does an NAI or Division I campus look like? That's a good time to do that as far as, exploring some campuses.
And you brought up a great point that it doesn't have to be a school that's recruiting you. And maybe you're in Atlanta for a tournament. You don't want to go to school that far away, but you have downtime. Take that opportunity to go see, hey, this is what you may be in Arizona and there are no D3 schools. There's D3 schools down in Atlanta. Go see one, right? You might be in a part of the country where it's only NAIA, or there isn't NAIA. We talk to people up in the Northeast, like, what is NAIA basketball? Well, they come to Chicago. There's a bunch of NAIAs right there. Go check that stuff out just to educate yourself on the level. Whether or not you get to meet with the coaching staff or whatever, like may or may not happen. Summertime, they may be gone. They may be out recruiting. They may be at the event that you're playing in or something. They're just not there. But to go get a sense of what it is, because you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And one more thing.
Yeah.
One more thing that we forgot to mention as a junior is take the ACT or SAT. You talked about that earlier. That's the year you take it. And I tell every kid I work with, and I know you do too, Coach, take it once. It can't hurt you. It can only help you. There are a lot of schools that are moving back to the test as a part of the application process, but that's the time to take the test.
And with that, a lot of schools will do the super score, where you can take it multiple times and you can kind of pick and choose your math score from this one, your English score from that one, and put it together and get a better score. I had a kid I was working with a couple of years ago. They were solely focused on their English. They took it like the third or fourth time. They literally just took the English part because it was the only score they cared about. The other ones were all great. The English one was lacking. And then that one boosted them up to the level that they needed to get into their school, that this was where they wanted to go. And everything was, they were like, you can't get in unless your score is this. And they identified that it was just one test they needed. And a lot of schools will pay for you to take it one time. So, take them up on that offer. It's, $50 to take it. Could be thousands and thousands of dollars in scholarships. So taking that test.
Yeah. And for seniors, again, we have seniors calling us still to this day, that need help. And it's never too late. I mean, I tell this story to families all the time. I had a senior call me up in June of his senior year looking for a school in August, so I had like 6 weeks to get this kid out. We did it. But I don't love that timeline. It puts a lot of pressure on us and me. But again, if you really want this and you really pass on playing at the next level and you need help, there's never not a good time, especially when you're a senior, to not do this. And so things as a senior, you got to continue to maintain strong academic standing, finalize your NCAA and NAIA eligibility requirements, continue to stay proactive with the college coaches that are recruiting you, or even with the ones that you aren't hearing from that you really want to go to, if you could play at that level. At some point, you're going to have to narrow down your choices, take your visits, and go, compare these places with one another. Compare your scholarship offers and your financial aid packages. You got to make your commitment as a senior. And that's a tough decision, but, there's a lot of things. I'm doing a little bit of a social media post on the five things I think you should consider when choosing a college, personal, spiritual, if that matters, academic. We're going to do basketball tomorrow, and then social, make sure those schools check those 5 boxes and those types of things. And then finish your high school career strong and prepare for the transition to college. And that's what you're going to be doing as a senior. So celebrate the commitment. I mean, that's my favorite part of this is I just had a kid commit to WashU yesterday, and boy, what a heck of a place to go to college. Obviously, right in your backyard, and an elite school and an elite basketball program, and very competitive. Not only to get into that school, but to get recruited to go play basketball at that school, and really, really fired up for him and the family. And he gets to now enjoy his senior season and not have to worry about his process any longer. And I'll tell you, Matt, and I'll let you kind of have the floor here. I've been doing this for 4 years now in this recruiting space since I've got out of coaching, and I have never had this many players in a senior class off the board already in mid-October, or have as many players that could commit right now if they wanted to. And that just shows you how we have good players and they're getting offered, but man, I don't know if I will wait too long, because if we have all of our guys getting offers, I'm sure there's other kids out there getting offers too. And again, a lot of these kids who wait, man, they're gonna lose some opportunities if they think the grass is greener, or they're just gonna play out their senior season, and the needle's gonna move that much to get them to a higher level. It will happen for some, but the percentage of the amount that's gonna happen is really small. So again, level doesn't matter. Go where you want to go, where you can play. There's great opportunities at every level, and if you've got some really good opportunities now, I think you need to take advantage of them. That's my advice to players right now in this recruiting climate.
And seniors, fill out your FAFSA. The parents, that's something that's going to fall on you. And it can't hurt you. It can only help you, as we've talked about before. There's schools that give scholarships, just fill the thing out. Whether the parent says, oh, we make too much or whatever, fill it out. There are deadlines. We talk about the high academic kids, whether you're early decision 1, ED2, you got it. Those are hard and fast deadlines. If you miss it, that's it. If you're one of those kids going on there, something that, again, being proactive with communication, coaches are going to ask you, have you applied? Apply. It's basically, if you do the Common App, that's going to cover most of the schools. Do your Common application. So then you've got it on there. And that can be a talking point with the coach. Hey, coach, you guys accept the Common App? Most of them are going to say yes. Perfect. You're done. You don't have to do anything else other than put that school on your application. If they don't, fill out the application. And then tell coach, hey, I filled out the application.
Yeah.
Because they can't do anything, right, until you fill out the application, get accepted to the school. So doing that paperwork part of it, the more you can do that now before season really gets rolling, November 1st is right around the corner when most people start, getting that paperwork, boring, kind of tedious stuff done ahead of time. And when you reach out to coaches, often they're going to ask you to apply, and they're going to ask you to fill out like a kind of a questionnaire for them. Take the 5 minutes and do it, because 95% of the kids. So standing out that way, you got to do the paperwork, got to do the boring stuff. The commitment part that you talked about, like that's the cherry on top. Like that's what we're going for. You got to do all this other stuff first, and it's boring, it's tedious, it's got to be done. So getting that piece out to those. So
that's to summarize. I mean, players just remember DEAP: development, education, assessment, and proactive. Freshmen, learn and prepare and develop. Sophomores, build your recruiting materials and identify some target schools and get to know levels. Juniors, actively start communicating with coaches, take some unofficials, continue to kick tail in the classroom, and develop. Seniors, maintain those relationships, stay proactive, finalize your options, and make your decisions. And I want to reinforce this: recruiting does not start when a coach calls. It starts when you do. So take control of your recruiting process early and get ahead of this thing, because the landscape has changed, and it's important to make sure you get the numbers on your side and get some people in your corner that can help you. And that's what we're here for at Net Results Recruiting, is to help you as players. So if you need that help, we want you to reach out to us through our website, netresultsrecruiting.com. We've got a lot of good guidance and resources on our website for you guys to help you through your path. Just really encourage you to get proactive in this thing.
Yep. So as Coach said, if you need anything, just find us on socials, reach out. We'd be happy to talk to you and your family and see if we can help you on your recruiting journey. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again on the next episode.
Basketball players, are you grinding in the gym but struggling to get noticed by college coaches? Your talent deserves the right exposure, and that's where Net Results Recruiting comes in. Whether you're in high school, junior college, or prep school, we help you connect with college programs, get you promoted to college coaches, and receive expert guidance throughout your recruitment journey. Don't leave your future to chance. Get exposure, get guidance, get results. Let our team find your team. Visit netresultsrecruiting.com today and take the next step towards your college basketball dream.